Thank you. Great to be here. So I have a message for all of you. You all are the world's best. That may sound crazy. I was a Division I athlete, All-American swimmer. Clearly I wasn't Michael Phelps. But we all have the opportunity to be the world's best version of ourselves every day, right? I believe each of us has the talent, capacity, and skills to be the world's best version of ourselves, to show up for ourselves and others. What gets in the way? Sometimes it's attitude, right? What attitude did you wake up with this morning? Did you come to this meeting with? A lot of times it's, I can't, I won't, it's your fault, right? We can make all kinds of excuses and have a bad attitude. Attitude makes an impact on our own happiness and the happiness of those around us. In fact, attitude can even be a killer. August 23rd, 2024, I had a sudden cardiac arrest and died. The odds of my living through that, I was 8 minutes, my heart was stopped. The odds of my living through that, about 8%. The odds of being physically and mentally okay, less than 1%. A defibrillator saved my life, right? The paramedics showed up with that. I had good friends who gave me CPR. I'm here today because of those two interventions. I don't believe there's coincidences in life. I think life happens for a reason and purpose, right? We don't always realize in the moment that it matters, but if we look back and reflect, we can stitch some of those things together. A friend of mine said, Sig, you're very blessed to have a number of God incidences. They weren't coincidences, they were God incidences in your life. Remember, I told you I was a swimmer. The physicians later would tell me part of why I survived was I trained my body to deal with oxygen better than most, right? My brain and body. In 1995, I went to work at General Mills. You know, Trix, right? Cheerios, Wheaties, Betty Crocker. Wonderful experience. I met people in 1995 that 30 years later would be the people that saved my life. And I'll tell you about those in a minute. In 1998, I left General Mills to go to work for a company called Survival Inc. It's one of the companies that pioneered AEDs, right? We were the first to put AEDs on an airline, in a police car, on a golf course. I'm sure there's one in your building here and one at your company. Then in the summer of 2024, that was a big year. A lot of things happened in my life. I'll focus on a couple. I went fly fishing in Montana with my son, who's a second-year med student. He brought his pastor with us fly fishing. And the pastor said, hey, have you guys ever heard of the concept of 4,000 weeks? Or seen the podcast or read the book, 4,000 Weeks? Nope, never heard of it. He said, well, 4,000 weeks is how long you have to live when you're born. It's about 80 years. Didn't think much of it at the time. But later, as I was recovering from my cardiac arrest and death, I said to myself, I don't know if I have a day left. I don't know if I have a week left. I'm 59 now. My dad's 95. Maybe I can live till I'm 95. I don't know, but it's scary. So I said, I have to put a flag in the ground. I'm going to live 1,000 weeks. 1,000 weeks, 20 years, be 79. And I'm here to make a difference in those 20 years. You know, you think about 20 years, you have 20 summers, 20 Christmases, 20 annual family reunions. Every one of those 20 years is 5% of what you have left. Puts it in a different perspective. But 2 weeks before my cardiac arrest, someone put together a reunion, 25-year reunion for Survival Inc., that AED company that I told you about. We got together, we're celebrating. We're high-fiving, we're chest bumping. What a wonderful thing. We've saved tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives in the last 25 years. Pretty cool. August 23rd, the big event. I got together with 11 others, 12 of us total, all friends from General Mills 30 years ago. They were still my best friends. Half had flown in from out of town, half were semi-retired or retired, half live here locally, I see them all the time. The people from out of town were connecting. Hey, how are the kids? Have they graduated college yet? You're retired now. What are you doing now with your retired time? When they asked me what I'd been up to, I said, hey, you guys remember when I left General Mills? I went to that company called Survivalink that invented AEDs, pioneered AEDs. Oh yeah, I remember that, Sig. I said, well, I gotta say to you guys, and I said this to a few of the out-of-town people, if you're not trained in CPR, get CPR trained. And I went on to say, and you ever see anybody that goes down near you, do CPR. You might break some ribs, but you gotta do it. That was the day I died to the people that were gonna save my life. Somebody's looking out for me. This is a picture at the pool where I died. So I decided the golf course, not a good place to have my cardiac arrest, even though they had a defibrillator. So I had a choice, right? I'm gonna wait for a better place to do it. So we had a barbecue that night, all the same people, including spouses and significant others. That's where I had my cardiac arrest and died. In fact, I was sitting in the chair you see there. That picture was taken 5 minutes before my cardiac arrest. Paul in the white hat knew something was wrong. He walked over, and as I had my cardiac arrest, he caught me and laid me on the ground, got his wife, and they started giving me CPR. So, a lot of questions, a lot of time to reflect. You say, why am I still here? Where does that highway go to? When I was in the hospital, I had anterograde amnesia. I have 2 days of my life, I don't remember a single thing. Everything I learned, I heard from other people. Right? It's kind of like Groundhog Day. You don't remember anything and you keep repeating it. So that phlebotomist that came in the room, I'd say, and I got my blood drawn every hour, probably for the first 2 days. He came in the room, what's your name? Rob. Rob, you're the world's best. Next hour, what's your name? Rob, you're the world's best. And he'd draw my blood and I'd tell him again, you're the world's best. 10 times when he was in the room. Take a deep breath, right? So that kind of a heavy story. Feels good to take a deep breath. Can everybody take a breath with me? Just breathe in. Feels great. So I'm in the hospital, still in this anterograde amnesia, and I had 3 broken ribs. I could only breathe about 10% in. Horrible. Well, a volunteer came into my room and gave me this pillow. And if you ever had broken ribs, it feels like getting stabbed in the ribs with a knife 3 times. They gave me this pillow. And they said, hug this. It'll be easier when you breathe, your ribs won't hurt as much. I did it, I'm not sure how much it helped, but I told them multiple times, you are the world's best. And I could tell you more stories, but my family, my sister Maria and others were in the room almost the whole time for those first 2-3 days. And they started to laugh because I'd tell everyone thousands of times, you're the world's best. And they were worried at one level because amnesia can be a permanent thing as well with brain damage after cardiac arrest. But hey, I seem to be okay and telling people optimistic things. So I thought, where did this come from? Why am I telling everyone you're the world's best, right? In the coming weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. And I thought, I probably said it for a few reasons. For the first time in my life, I found myself in a position unable to care for myself. You know, I was a D1 athlete. I was a leader of teams. I couldn't do anything for myself. So this was my way of expressing gratitude, right? You're the world's best. Just a fancy and appreciative way of saying thank you. The other reason I think I did it was I knew I was really messed up, right? Something was wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was wrong and, you know, again, that amnesia. And I wanted people's best when they stepped into that room. I wanted them to be the best version of themselves because I knew I needed the best doctor for the surgery that was about to happen. I needed the best nurse to care for me. I needed the best friends, right? And so my saying that was pumping people up, right? I didn't know that in the moment, you know, it was my Groundhog Day. But I think that's why I did it. So, my takeaway for all of you, right? I'm super blessed. I make it a point to say, you are the world's best to someone every single day. It has to be genuine, right? It has to be in our own words and way to say it. But that elevates your own happiness. It elevates the happiness of others around you and improves your performance, right? You just genuinely show up and do things better. So I have the world's best friends. I had the world's best caregivers, world's best family. I am so, so blessed. I was 20 below here in Minnesota about a week ago. I found myself in a coffee shop. In that coffee shop were 2 police officers. I just started chatting with him while we were in the coffee line. And I said to him, I said, gosh, being a police officer is a hard job. Right now it's 20 below. That's got to make your job even harder. And they chatted and shared with me a little bit about, yeah, when it's that cold, it is harder. And I looked at them and I said, you know what? Thanks. You all are the world's best for doing this for our community. Genuine from the heart. And I love how people smile and how it makes them feel, right? And how it makes me feel. And it does up your game and performance at the same time. So try to build that into your lives, right? Go home tonight. Change your attitude, right? Get out of that attitude loop that's bad, that says I can't, I won't. And get into the gratitude loop. So I have one call out here at the end. I want to thank everyone at the company for having me today in the conference. You are the world's best.